Now, the theatre, we were describing the theatre. You were saying you come out of Finsbury Park and you can go into it.
Pretty much.
Right. Now, you two are sitting here because you need people to support it. Now, Watford Palace Theatre was something that was your baby. It was certainly where I started. Local theatre for you?
Oh, I just have a massive passion for theatre anyway, and I think as an actor, for me, every couple of years I have to do something in the theatre.
But where was your local? What was the thing that...
When I was growing up, you mean? It was the Kenneth Moore Theatre in Ilford.
Oh.
And that was the local theatre.
Is it there anymore?
I think it is still there, yeah. And I went to... the minute that I could take myself to the theatre, I used to go to the theatre a lot because my parents weren't necessarily into theatre and, you know, they liked it, but take quite a lot to sit down for a couple of hours. And now I take my daughter to the theatre quite a lot, and I think it's really important because she absolutely loves it. And so to see any form of dancing or singing or acting, this magical world that...
And the smell, I mean, I said that at Watford, in the front row, you can smell the grease paint. You literally can smell the dry ice. It's wonderful. So now, in my door, because Tom Parry, who's doing your PR, wonderful, Tom Parry, brilliant PR, if I may say so, which is why you're sitting here. You have created this pack, which has posters. And on the posters, it tells you what you can do and how you can do it. So between the pair of you, just go for it.
Okay, you can donate as little or as much as you like. You can become a friend, a good friend, a special friend. There are many different ways to donate and become involved. We are also devising a situation where you can sign a wall for 20 quid and that you can see your signature. We're then going to glaze it and you'll see your signature forever every time you go to that theatre. So the whole wall's going to be covered in, hopefully, energetic, passionate names. The other thing you can do is you can name a seat, which is what I've done. So egotistically, I wanted to see my name
Where
on a
are
seat.
you? Which row?
I think I'm front row stalls of the larger theatre, the 200-seater. So, yeah, because I like the idea of when you're rehearsing in the space, you can see your name on the back of the seat.
Oh, no, you just want you want bums. You just want people to put their bum on you.
Exactly. So you can name a seat in the larger theatre or the smaller theatre. And really, we're kind of looking for any form of support.
OK, so now you talk about the 200-seater. What is the space?
Well, in fact, you mentioned more intimate spaces and something like the Donmar warehouse. Our brief to our fantastic architects, David Hughes Architects, who'd done a wonderful job on this, was really to create very, very intimate spaces. So with a 200-seater, what I absolutely didn't want was what's called an end-on stage, where you have the stage at one end of the room and then you have the seats raked back to the other end of the room, and you end up sitting maybe 20 rows away from the stage. So what I wanted was a very intimate thrust stage. So that's what we have. We have a stalls and a circle, and we have the audience sitting on three sides. So the audience kind of wrap around the stage.
Yeah.
It was actually very like the Donmar in that sort of configuration.
And a bit Hampstead Theatre as well.
Less Hampstead,
more
Donmar.
More
More Donmar.
Oh, listen to us. Yeah. Less Hampstead, more Donmar. Don't we sound like an 8-ball play?
I know.
Shall we have some tea?
Slightly Almeida.
Yeah.
And then the smaller space, Park 90, the larger space is called Park 200 because it seats about 200. The smaller space is Park 90 because it seats between 80 and 100. And that's a completely flexible space, which is really exciting.
So what is it going to be called? Park Theatre. So it's Park Theatre, and we'll give out details of emails and all that stuff in a moment. What kind of stuff are you going to put on? New stuff? And you were saying that you had a text on the way in from a playwright. Is it going to be new work, old work? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm not the artistic director, but I'm imagining in my wildest dreams that there'll be new and old work. So I imagine that the smaller space will kind of be workshopping or trying out new work, and the larger space maybe will have classics as well as comedies. I mean,
that's correct. I mean, essentially in the smaller space it will be more not necessarily exclusively new work, but emerging companies, emerging writers, directors, and in the larger space an absolute mix from classics through to new writing, and even a very traditional Christmas pantomime.
How did you get money for this? Who did you sleep with?
She's not looking at me, by the way.
No. Yeah. Well, you don't know. I've got eyes in the side of my head. Well, how did you get funding for this in a time when there is no money?
Yeah, well, we've raised the money all privately. And we have a fantastic relationship with Islington Council as well, which has enabled half of the total project cost. to be recouped by creating and selling off 5 flats at the top of the building. So that's a big part of it as well.
And presumably you'll have, I'm sorry to interrupt, and Kim, one of my executives, say, you've done it again, you've interrupted. But there's so much I want to ask. Will there be facilities for young people to come in and learn and train and all that stuff?
Well, this is really why we're here today, is to talk to you about the education work. And we're here because we are, at the moment, fundraising for a dedicated education space on site, which will be a wonderful facility where we'll be able to work with over 500 local disadvantaged young people in the first year alone, and build in terms of the education programs that we can run. But we have a budget of £400,000 that we need to raise. We're close to about 150,000 now.
Take over, Tam.
Which is
You're
great.
good at this.
So
fundraise.
Maths-wise, does that mean we've got 250?
Indeed.
It's left to raise.
Yeah.
And if we don't raise that, then that space, that education space, will then become 2 flats. So it will just be a sad end to all of this.
And it'll be lost forever, which is the thing.
Yeah, because we can't then turn it back.
So now, using BBC London 94.9, pump out what we need to let people know.
Well, please let people know that you can give £5, you can give £10, you can give £100, you can name a seat, you can do whatever you can. Please reach into your pocket. There's a lot of listeners out there, and it all does add up, and we're very touched that every day we get people giving a few quid, and that is all going towards building this education floor.
Emails.
And on Twitter, at Park Theatre Live, if you want to follow, at Park Theatre Live on Twitter.
Yeah,
the website is parktheatre.co.uk, where you can learn about how to support and get involved. Local businesses, if you are in any way creative, artistic, like going to the theatre, would like to get involved but don't know how to, you can support, you can name seats, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be up and running by November.
That was my last question, and then I'm going to quickly ask you something. Because when I read that they'd taken park keepers away, and 2 or 3 years ago, and I did a phone-in, and people were saying, it was a park that we loved, and now they've taken the park keepers away, and it's dangerous and so on. You're right now can re-establish an area, can't you, doing something
That's
like
right.
this?
There's a huge amount of regeneration happening in Finsbury Park at the moment, and we're right at the centre of that. John Jones opposite us are redeveloping. There's a big scheme called City North, which is 2 21-storey towers right by the station, which is developing over the next 3 to 5 years.
Swanky.
It's going to be really swanky. There's going to be a massive change, and I just got to reiterate, there's nothing in the area in terms of arts provision, and it's really important.
And what about the theatre and cafe bars? In the week, they're going to be open till 12, at weekend till 2, so that'll bring in a whole...
And JB said, I can serve coffee. He said that to me.
I love the fact that you call him JB already. I'm going to call him that.
Because I'm a JB. What are you doing, T.O.?
T.O. at the moment, I'm doing a lot for PT, which is Park Theatre. And
thank you.
I'm enjoying it. I'm very passionate about it. And also, I'm in the middle of an episode of New Tricks. I just did an episode of...
It's God's Gift's favourite programme.
Well, I just had such a wonderful time. I'm back in again for one more day, but there's such a great group of actors, really old school. They really look after you, and I have a really great time.
I have always been in love with the geezer who was in Minder. What's his name?
Dennis Waterman.
It's no good saying Dennis looking at me. I've got a senior moment. I can't
Dennis
remember.
Dennis Waterman.
Yeah, well, I'm in love with him. I've always been in love with him.
Oh, he's great.
Now, listen, the Finsbury Park Theatre, Celia Imrie, Sir Ian McKellen, loads of names are supporting, aren't they? And you, in listening land, can be part of it too. parktheatre.co.uk. Give what you can. We'll talk about it later. If you live in this Finsbury area, phone 0207 224 2000. Tell me why it's the best thing since Tamsin and sliced bread. And, of course, JB. It's exactly 10:30. It's time for news with Abigail Lewis.